Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, then my name is Catherine and we talk about all things homesteading, homemaking, and just our journey to a slow, more simple life. As you can hear, the birds are chirping. It is an absolutely beautiful day. Yesterday was rainy and today is going to be really sunny. Tomorrow is supposed to be in the 90s, which is kind of crazy. I know it's not for anyone out there that lives more south. I'm sure you're like, oh, it was 90 back in like April. But for me here in Maine, 90 is a really, really hot day. But so I'm out here today where it's going to be a little less hot. I think it might get up to 80, which is really hot, pretty hot for here as well. Our average summer days are definitely more in the 70s here. But I'm out here sitting in the garden drinking my raw goat milk chai latte. It is delicious. And as we are nearing the end of June, I thought it was time to do the June garden tour. And I just have to say that I'm definitely past that point that I think I said in the May garden tour, how when you first plant things in the garden, you're always kind of like, is this going to do anything? No matter how many years of successful gardening you've had, I feel like that's just the feeling you can get. But everything is really thriving and I'm really excited about it. It really looks again like this is going to be my best garden to date. And I really just can't wait to show you all the growth that has happened. If you want to compare it to last month, you can go ahead and find my May garden tour video. I'll probably link it up there. But if this is your first time tuning in to the garden tour, I am definitely in a suburb area. I am right on a street. There's other houses right next to me. And my garden space in the front yard is about, I think, 80 feet by maybe 70 something feet. And I've been trying to add more beds and just more to it over the year. And so that's just kind of what I'm working with. Obviously that whole space is not filled with gardening space as much as I want it to be. So it is definitely a small scale homestead for the moment. But my ultimate goal really is to someday purchase a decent sized bit of land, definitely some acreage. Not sure exactly how much it'll be yet. We'll just kind of have to see where life goes. But that is the ultimate goal. But while I am here on this suburban property, which many people may be as well, I'm really thankful that I have the opportunity to learn things at a smaller scale, learn food I like, just try different types of food to grow, and to start learning things like preserving. So with that, let's go ahead and check out the garden and see how it is doing. First, let's go ahead and just look at some of the flowers. This is a type of peony, and look how gorgeous that color is. And these peonies have opened up as well. These ones are my favorite. Just beautiful. If you grow big, tall flowers like this, like the peony, I used tomato cages, which almost always are never good for tomatoes, but has really helped hold these up. I notice especially where we are that we get some rain, and these will just completely be awful if we get one rain because they're so heavy, especially that they just completely ploop over. But this has very much helped keep these big blooms standing tall and beautiful. And I'm definitely probably going to cut a couple to bring inside for a little bit. The lilies have not yet bloomed, but as you can see, they're gonna pretty soon. And that'll be absolutely gorgeous. And in here, this is safflower that I started from seed inside, and that's looking pretty good. And behind it, I believe that's either yarrow or chamomile growing because I planted both. Let's go ahead and take a look at the herb bed. This is the oregano, and man, has it really taken off. I got so much that I can already take to dry. I am so happy with this oregano. It obviously comes back every year as it's perennial, and it's just such a nice big bunch. I got some thyme planted in here too. Not a whole lot of growth on that yet. I have a lot of weeding I need to do in here. This herb bed is just kind of atrocious. But now if we go ahead and look up, look at all the chive blossoms. The chive is obviously huge and taking over, and all the blossoms, they are just so pretty. They smell so good. You can make a chive blossom vinegar very easily with this. It is a great gift actually. It becomes a beautiful pink vinegar and you can use it on salads and stuff. But I definitely like to let these go to bloom. The beneficial insects and pollinators love it. And over there too, the sage that came back, I didn't expect it to come back actually, but I let that fully go to bloom and that's beautiful. I actually saw a hummingbird drinking from it the other day. So that was really beautiful to see. So this is potato bed 1, and over here we have some parsley just kind of growing. It is really starting to take off now. When I first planted it, a lot of it kind of died back, but now it's really seeming to establish. We can see there's new growth coming in on them. And then the rest of this bed is all russet potatoes, really starting to fill in. So one thing that is really great about where I am, and I don't know if it's because of my climate being in Maine or if it's just me specifically, maybe the bugs just haven't found me yet, but we really don't have any pest pressure that I can really speak of. The only thing that gave me kind of a hard time last year was cabbage worms. But since I'm not growing really any brassica in the garden this year, that's not going to be an issue. Now, I grew potatoes for the first time last year, and I had no potato beetles, nothing like that. So I'm thinking the same will be said for this year. They look so good. And I'll show you too when I get over the tomatoes. I'll talk more about it, but I don't even know if tomato hornworms grow here. Like, I don't know if they survive in this climate because I've never seen one. But let's go ahead and hop over to the other potato bed. So this jungle right in front of me here is the other potato bed. And this is a combination of white and red potatoes. And man, you can see how high that plant is. In the corner, we got a little rosemary. Hasn't seemed to grow much, but also looks fairly happy. And then this part of the bed I need to weed, and I think I'm going to plant some cucumbers in here or something. But basically I just ran out of potatoes and I kind of forgot, and I haven't planted anything in here yet. But there's definitely time. Let me know what you would plant in this little section. But hopefully I can get some clips of the garden back in May and compare it to now, because look how much this has grown, really. It's crazy. Last year I only grew russet, so it's going to be cool to see how the harvest on white and red potatoes are. And the white ones were just potatoes from the store that started sprouting because I didn't eat them. So that's kind of cool to see what kind of growth I get from those. So let's move over this way. And this is the garlic bed. I think I also had onions too, but as you can see by this right here, we're getting garlic scapes. And I'm actually going to go ahead and harvest all these scapes, but it's really awesome to see the growth. They're looking great, and these I planted back in the fall and then they overwintered. In the middle here we got a couple different varieties of beet. I think that is just one carrot that's randomly in there. Some more parsley and dill, and I'm letting this sorrel be here. In the thin bed here we got pretty much all carrots. All of these are carrots, and they actually spaced pretty well. I didn't have to, you know, take too many out. Then there's a big tall dill over there, as well as a cilantro kind of coming back right in the middle, a parsley, and I threw a couple sunflowers over here, but I wouldn't be surprised if they don't really do that well. This bed, especially right in this corner, kind of gets shaded more than other areas, and so I don't know, we'll see, but they are looking healthy. But although this is kind of a small bed and it won't be that many carrots, I'm excited to hopefully get actually really big carrots since they have space, they have depth in here. This is the bean bed, and so we got some bush beans in here. There's definitely some gaps, not everything germinated, but that's okay. I can get more seeds, and it's actually kind of a good thing to have these types of beans not all be coming in at once. They tend to put all of their beans out kind of at the same time, so it'd be good to have them kind of spread out a little bit. But the plants that have grown, have germinated, Oh, interesting. Is that, what kind of bug made that? I should probably take that off. I'd have to assume. But they're definitely looking really good. And right across from beans is the corn bed. And this is so cool. I have not grown corn ever, first year. And how neat. They're definitely looking good. There's a lot kind of clumped together there, and I'm not really sure. I think they do well being very close together, so I haven't messed with it, but let me know if that's too close. They're kind of really piled on each other there, but they all seem to be growing at about the same height. There's a few that are a little shorter. They all seem to be doing fairly well. Popcorn is definitely one of my favorite snacks, and I'm really excited and hoping to have a pretty popcorn that I can pop my own popcorn throughout the winter season. So this bed is kind of something. This bed definitely has the worst quality soil. As you can see, this is really a problem area. I did have tomatoes growing in here last year, and they grew and produced, but not well. And this just clearly needs to be amended. I got a bunch, and in other beds too, but I'm leaving them. I got a bunch of wild raspberry plants. Must have been carried by birds or something, but I'm leaving all of them because I'm hoping to get some wild raspberries. But it's just kind of interesting how many have seemed to pop up. This I know is a cucumber, and hopefully it does okay. This is a cucumber as well, and I don't really remember what I planted here, to be honest, but this is something I planted. Same thing here as well, and then that almost looks like a cilantro or something coming up. Down on this end is another wild raspberry, and then that's all Swiss chard. I'm thinking I might put another layer or two of Swiss chard along here. And then those are a couple of sunflowers, as you can see, much bigger than the ones in the carrot bed. The lilac tree is now past its blooming time, but it is definitely, no doubt, taller than me now already in the season. I think I showed it at the beginning of the season and it was about my height, and it is just growing. That is so cool. And let's just go ahead and look down. All of those are tomatoes with some different squash mixed in, but almost all of them are flowering now. And this must be some kind of cherry variety with how close those are together. So there are my big boys. Those are sunflowers, and this is my first year growing sunflowers, so I'm really excited to see them when they do come into bloom. I'm very, very encouraged by how huge these are. Those are all a variety of squash. I think those are butterbush. We got some watermelon growing as well amongst the tomatoes. This basil is kind of looking sad on some of the leaves, but also doing well in other places. This is a different variety of squash, and this is kind of starting to get shaded out by this tomato plant, so I'll have to see what I can do about that. Hopefully it'll just start growing this way. Here's a cilantro. I planted it in here hoping tomatoes would shade it, but not really currently, so it's starting to kind of turn to coriander, but it's doing okay. This basil is looking a little better to me. And here are the big boys. These are all pumpkin, and we already have one that has successfully been pollinated, and I think that one has not been. It doesn't seem like, it seems like it's gonna fall off, but we got lots of flowers, lots of, there's one that's, I believe, gonna be a female, and we got more male flowers, I'm sure, coming on. But so this is just the beginning, but already to have a pumpkin pollinated, that is fantastic news. So this is another bed that's kind of not the best quality, but it seems to be doing okay. We got more of the wild raspberries going in this one, and a couple of, I think these are onions that I planted in the fall. And I will fully admit, if you remember me growing peppers from start, those all died. I think I just put them out too soon for them to handle, because peppers like warm, and that's not really what we're dealing with here most of the time, except for today and tomorrow apparently. But I did get some pepper start plants from the local nursery, and they seem to be doing okay. Not really growing anymore. It seems like they are putting on flowers for their fruit already, and I'm not sure if that's a good thing. I'm kind of thinking that probably I should have taken those flowers off so they'd focus on their plant more and growing, but I've never really successfully grown peppers, so to be honest, I'm just kind of excited to see the fruit grow. But definitely let me know what you would do. And I'm kind of perplexed. I don't remember, this looks like my peacock broccoli that I've planted, and I didn't plant any this year, so I'm kind of confused. I'm not sure how seeds could have gotten over here since I planted them in a different bed, unless I'm remembering wrong, but that's kind of what these plants look like, so that's interesting. And then that, I believe, is a collard green that I did plant, and that is probably the biggest wild raspberry bush that I got going on. So I looked it up, and I should be expecting to possibly get some fruit. So that's why I'm leaving it, and I'm just gonna kind of see how it does. More collards kind of intermixed. And I didn't notice before, but is this a tomato? I definitely didn't plant any tomatoes over here. I had tomatoes in here last year, and so it seems like I'm really getting volunteers kind of happening in this bed, which is neat. So that bed is definitely just kind of a hodgepodge mess a little bit, but I'm kind of into it. I definitely need to do some weeding. I've gotten a lot of weeding done, but I have a lot more to do on the big gardens and on the two messy beds, I guess we'll call them. And kind of to end on an anticlimactic note, but this is kind of what I was hoping would be a flowery herb bed. It's mostly weeds, but if we do look here, I think this is a chamomile. It's either chamomile or yarrow, and I think they just kind of look similar when they're in this stage, but it's growing, so that is exciting. And once I get this weeded, I will probably throw some more seeds in here for something, but that will be to be determined. And in this tote, we got a bunch of dahlia, and they're doing great as well. I'm gonna go ahead and sit in the shade for a minute because it is hot, hot, hot. But while I am here in the shade, I did want to mention that, yeah, tomatoes in Maine, you could see they were still looking very bushy. So I do plan to take some of the excess leaves and stems off, but it's really not a huge issue here. I honestly have been kind of lazy in years past and barely even trellised my tomatoes, and I still managed to get a really good harvest, and I've never seen disease with my tomatoes. I don't know why exactly about the environment here, but I've never seen powdery mildew, and that's not to say that it doesn't happen. I'm sure it probably does, but not something I've seen, and I've been growing tomatoes since I first started gardening, which, man, I don't even know, 5 years ago now? So I'm not really worried about it retaining the moisture or anything like that and causing disease. My bigger concern is just trying to keep the tomatoes up so that I get all of them and none of them end up going and kind of being unseen or being too close to the ground and being kind of into the bugs. But I am just so happy because this is definitely going to be the earliest I get tomatoes, I think, through gardening. It is not even July yet, and almost every tomato has put on its flowers, as well as the fact that I already have a pumpkin pollinated and growing. That's really great. My garden season is fairly short, not as short as others, but definitely near the shortest on the list of places, at least in America. And so the sooner that things can kind of start put on their fruit, that is the better for me. Because definitely by October, nothing really is going to want to grow except maybe some leafy greens. That definitely made me nice and warm. But thank you guys for walking around the garden with me for a little bit. I hope you enjoyed. Please do let me know any of the questions that I asked. I'd love to have a better idea of what to do, things to do with some of the stuff I'm less familiar with. And I'm just excited to see what this looks like a month from now for our July tour, because I bet I'll be really harvesting at that point. But if you like this kind of content and would like to see more in the future, please consider subscribing to join this community of like-minded folk. I put out a new video every Monday, and I do a whole kind of combination of things, but it's all related to being a small-scale homesteader, homemaker, and just living a more simple and natural life. So definitely check out the playlist on my channel for the different kind of content and see if you want to stick around and watch anything else. But that's going to do it for me today, and I do hope to see you in the next one. Bye-bye!